And gracious God, we so truly thank you for this day and this opportunity. We thank you for all that you have done for us. We are a little bit confused and concerned with some things that people are doing and which is not pleasing in your sight, but we ask you to please continue to guide us. Help us to continue to have the good spirit of kindness and love and peace. We ask you to continue to help us as we help those who are homeless and in need. We ask that you continue to help us to do the things that are pleasing in your sight and peaceful and loving and kind. We thank you for those events that have changed the look and feel of our city. We thank you for the peace that you have brought us through other circumstances. Please continue to have mercy upon our staff, and particularly our first responders. Please keep them safe. We ask you to continue to give us the right edges to do what we need to do, and which is pleasing in your sight. We are not by no means perfect, but we pray that you will continue to strengthen us and guide us to do the right things. These and all other blessings we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You have the minutes of February 27th. Will stand approved as submitted unless there are any objections, changes. Council, don't see anything.
Mayor, we do need a roll call.
And the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke.
Aye, here.
Councilmember Lillian Fleming.
Here.
Councilmember Ken Gibson.
Here.
Councilmember Will Brisington.
Here.
Councilmember Russell Stahl. Councilmember Dorothy Dow. Here. Mayor Knox White.
Here. Thank you very much. We have two folks who signed up to speak to us this evening. Watch the 3-minute clock. Mr. Farmer, you know the drill. No.
Joe Farmer, 207 Alpine Way. Last Thursday, the BZA began the meeting late, even though 4 members were present, which constitutes a quorum. Once the 5th member arrived and the meeting began, we found out why the delay. The chair had a conflict of interest on the first agenda item and recused himself. This is the 4th time in the last 7 meetings he has recused himself. This time was for a drive-through on Pendleton Street. The second exception was approved for an LLC who did not apply and does not own the property. The current applicant has an agreement to sell, barring an approval. Now, the current applicant wanted 3 bedrooms and commercial space on Washington Street. The buyer wanted to change that to 2 bedrooms and commercial space and tear off the top roof and add a second level. In a sense, he was kind of working around the rules to get his short-term rental and add on additional space rather than just use the entire space for commercial. I requested a 60-day deferral to allow council to vote on the new development code because I believe in the new code as proposed, this would not be allowed. I referenced page 411 where it says one of the reasons not to approve is for financial reasons. The BCA has now overridden the comprehensive plan, the 2040 plan, and undermined the proposed development code. I really think somebody needs to rein these people in because they're approving their own projects. They're rushing through stuff at the last minute, and they're not doing what you all intended. I was here when that 2040 plan was presented, and I remember the gentleman saying, this is a code. You can put it on the shelf and do nothing, or you can apply it. And this board is putting it under the table and subverting it. The same thing with the comprehensive plan. This development code, I've read it. It's 428 pages. It is comprehensive, but it means nothing if they're just going to hand out exceptions. So I'm here tonight to say, if you need 7 people to replace this board, call me. I'll find you 7 people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Farmer. Councilor Dow and I and others have really talked about the need. First of all, you know, the 4 recusals in the last 7 meetings. We've had members that have had absenteeism. I think we might have some members that are running tardy. But I think that, Counselor Dow and I have talked a lot about this, and I think it's incumbent upon us that at the beginning, during the interview stage, that we have to either standardize these questions or create a qualification list, because certainly we don't need people, recusing themselves at a high rate, and we need people. I think for the most part, and historically, people have taken these boards and commissions very seriously, but I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that on the front end that they do. So.
Yeah, and I do want to be fair, though, and I'll ask, I guess, Lee and Shannon on this. In terms of existing boards considering the code, which has yet to be approved and adopted by council, they're still operating under the old LMO, correct, Shannon? So I can't really fault them on that. I do think, to your point, Mr. Farmer, that the new code, the highlights of the new code are many. A couple of real benefits that I've always seen, just speaking for myself, is they take away workarounds for certain kinds of things, and more standardize the rules of engagement on development. In other words, they bring clarity to development, and then everybody operates with those rules. And BZA is its inherent nature is it's an exception. But to John's point, we are looking to staff to help us with the questions, to help us best understand every applicant we talk to on the interview process. And we are in the process of looking hard at all of our boards and their current makeup.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Just, and I would take a slightly different tact on that. And then certainly our boards are operating under the old code or the current code. But I would hope that staff, when they're looking at projects, that they are taking into account what we are looking for our code to be, and making sure that their recommendations as far as approval of various projects are in keeping with that. My concern about all of our codes and all of our changes in our code are that there will be a rush of applications to approve projects which would not be authorized under our new code. So, short of some other option, I believe that type of consideration is going to have to come from staff. And I would hope that staff would look to what's going to be approved and available under our new code when they are making recommendations, particularly when we're talking about special exceptions and such things like that.
I want to say that I think it's important that there's ethics. I know we have information that when we're getting people, those questions, we ask them questions about having to recuse yourself, having the time for the event. You see any problem with and we ask specific questions. So if people have told us one thing and then do something different, we need to be gravely concerned, and we need to look at the ethics of which we're placing people on boards, and then they're operating in a different vein. And I just think it's important that the city of Greenville is not used as a pawn to be able to promote some certain people's businesses because somebody's in a position. That to me is unethical.
Mr. Mayor, I would say it is a personnel issue
Yeah.
when it comes to boards and commissions, and I just think of the appropriate time is in executive session when we can.
Yeah, and I would like to point out too that the pending ordinance doctrine and the time of application doctrine would apply on the ones that are before the boards now. And for staff, they have to evaluate the applications against the ordinance as it exists now, which will be different. I will say, I think that I understand that this particular application that's been raised before you, before the BZA on Thursday, is an application for a use that will be by right under the new code. So the Board of Zoning Appeals would never have heard the application in 60 days. So.
I think, Mr. Mayor, my only point was that, and I'll look at myself first and just say, I need to be more intentional on the questions I ask
Mm-hmm.
in interviews. So, but thank you
Okay,
for
thank you.
indulging me.
Mr. Jack Logan?
Thank you.
My name is Jack Logan, founder of Put Down the Guns Now Young People Organization. I'm standing here tonight in place of victims of murder and those people who's been charged wrongly by Greenville Police Department. Javion Sanders was charged with murder in 2021, I do believe, for the death of Kobe Smith. He was one of those men that was charged by Walt Wilkins' office doing the investigations that they do. And I commend our solicitor on doing that. They found that there was not enough evidence to move forward to prosecute Javion Sanders. I have no problem with that, but Kobe's mother do have a problem with that. But I understand the law very well. If there's not enough evidence, there's not enough evidence. Then moving on down the line, that's Joel Corey Brown, who was charged with murder of a 93-year-old woman in the Nicholtown community. He was locked up for 6 or 7 months, I do believe, and then police did find out that he did not do it, and they corrected it. But can you imagine you being charged with murder? Then I go on down to Camille Anderson, another black male that was murdered in Greenville, in the city, in the Nicholtown community. And I was over there that day. One of the defendants hired Randy Chambers, and I'm not mad at Randy Chambers. He done his job as an attorney. He was found not guilty. Then I remind you of Timothy Balkin, who was charged with armed robbery. The solicitor's office, too, dropped that charge again, down to shoplifting. This is sloppy police work. I do commend what you said, Mr. Mayor, the other week, that crime has gone down. Crime has gone down. Chief Howard Thompson, I'd been knowing him for a long time. And he was a good police officer, and he's a good police chief. But he's got to get the right people in the right places. Because I would hate to see the mayor charged with murder and you didn't do it. Miss Fleming charged with armed robbery and you didn't do it. Because if Mr. Gibson sitting over here never read the newspaper, he may read the first time and see what the two of y'all been charged with murder. He don't see later where it was dismissed. And that's bad to listen to two of these families. What they told me, they do plan to bring a civil suit against the city. And all this can be prevented with good police work. And that's sloppy police work. But again, I commend our solicitor, Walt Wilkins, for doing what they do, investigating charges made not just by the city, by the sheriff's department as well. And that's another issue. But this is very sad. But again, I just want to see Chief Thompson get better men and women in his department. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Consent agenda?
Motion approved.
Second.
There's one item. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke.
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming.
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington. Councilmember Stahl.
Aye.
Councilmember Dow.
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. Moving to the regular agenda. Shannon, are you going to be up there? Some very significant annexations, which we appreciate her team here tonight.
Item 15.
15A.
Yes, sir. Ordinance to annex approximately 20.88 acres of real property and 6.35 acres of adjacent right-of-way located at 1 and 5 St. Francis Drive and 720 Arlington Avenue, and to provide the zoning designation of OD.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since planning took over annexations about 2 years ago, this has been a property that we've been working on diligently with the leadership of St. Francis, trying to have this property be within the city as their other location over on the east side. And we are very pleased this evening to present this annexation request to you. This has long been in the making and something that we think will add to the overall enticement of our community to have their facility within our city limits. I would also like to make sure to think that, over the last year and a half, we've annexed a significant amount of land, and we've had a lot more annexations than we ever previously had. And I could not do that without the work of the A-team, as they call themselves, annexation team, of Austin Rutherford and John Hamlet, both of whom are here this evening and who both worked very diligently in many months to bring this annexation before us. So I'm very appreciative of the work that they do every day for the city, and really excited as we continue to look at opportunities for annexation throughout the community.
We'll give a hand of applause for John and Austin.
And
They're so modest, they didn't even stand or wave or anything like that.
just to comment, Knox, the St. Francis one has been in the works for probably a decade.
5 years, 10 years, something like that.
And this is such a significant one that also frees up further annexations down the street. So this is one of the ones that I'm most excited about that we've done. Of all the ones we've done the last 2 years, this is outstanding. So great work, folks.
And I want to say thanks to St. Francis. They started this dialogue with us about 10 years ago when they invested so much in the Sterling neighborhood. And during that, we realized a couple things. One is the neighborhood was so split up between county and city. But for police protection, public safety in particular, it was not a good thing to be on the border, if you will, and people knew that. So they were impressed by the safety factor of the city side versus the county side. That was very important and very obvious to them. They were also, as they invested in the Sterling neighborhood themselves, they were just blown away by the amount of public investment the city was making in the neighborhood and around it, the sidewalks, the stormwater, the sewer, and the disparity between what the city was doing versus the county. So now we can kind of join forces and put the millions of dollars that we put into that neighborhood, join forces with St. Francis Hospital. And like you say, it is kind of a gateway project too in terms of annexation. But thank you for, we had to go through a lot of issues, and congratulations getting that done.
Thank you.
Shannon, can you go to that map, the next slide? Go one more. It might be that one. I might want to go back to that one. Keep going. Okay, go back. Sorry. One more. And maybe if you can zoom in, help me understand the methodology of the donuts that are created. And I know I'm not using the right term, but we do have some alleyways in there. Is there anything we can?
Those are properties that we're continuing to work with them on and would hopefully bring before you in a future annexation. But just because of the way that the parcel boundaries align, this was the first step.
Okay. And then on the top right corner, the little guy all by himself.
Again, it's a piece of property that they own.
So does St. Francis own that?
Yes.
That piece? Okay.
Yes.
And then contiguous to it is already us.
That's right.
Okay. All right, good.
And we have
Dorothy,
some,
one of the donut holes was, if I remember correctly, it's a single residence that is not owned by St. Francis.
yeah.
It's
And
right by the Bernadine Center.
is there some legislation, sorry to catch you off guard there, some legislation
Yes,
on our tools to deal with donut holes?
yeah, former Mount Pleasant Councilman Joe Bustos, new member of the House, Republican Party, has a bill introduced that is in 3M committee right now, which is chaired by Celeste Davis, and we're hoping to have a subcommittee meeting on it, but lots of conversations that are occurring between the associations, counties, and the municipal association.
And MASC is supporting it?
Yes.
Municipal Association is supporting it? Okay,
Oh,
good,
yes.
good.
And one other little aspect I remember in our discussions is that picking up some property that could also be land bank for affordable housing, which is part of the deal we started talking to them about 6 or 7 years ago. So hopefully we can finally make that happen too. All right, clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke.
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming.
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington. Councilmember Stahl.
Aye.
Councilmember Dow.
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. Good first reading. 15B.
An ordinance to annex approximately 7.07 acres of real property and 3.19 acres of adjacent right-of-way located at 825 and 827 Congaree Road, and to provide the zoning designation of C3.
So moved.
Second. Motion second. It's a good one to talk
Yes,
about.
this is the annexation of the Hyundai dealership, and we're very excited to be able to bring them into the city and continue to find avenues in which we see have the opportunity to bring existing businesses into the city of Greenville. I would also like to point out that tonight, we're putting in place our new annexation procedure where we bring first reading before the public hearing. They'll go to planning commission, then it comes back to second reading in an effort to try to ease the process of annexation. So to actually go, this is first reading, and then they'll go to public hearing and planning commission recommendation on this week on Thursday, and then back to you all for second reading.
How does that ease the process? Just curious.
It condenses it significantly, so
Okay,
it helps the
amount of
timeline
helpful.
significantly.
Okay, I was trying to do that.
Prevents
Okay.
mischief too, if you know what I mean. Clerk will call the roll. 15B.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming,
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson,
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington, Councilmember Stahl,
Aye.
Councilmember Dow,
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. 15C.
An ordinance to annex approximately 2.31 acres of real property and 0.63 acre of adjacent right-of-way located at 650 Executive Center Drive, and to provide the zoning designation of C3.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. You want to add to that?
We continue to work with the property owners of this business park, and we just had one before you last month, and this is a continuation of our efforts in this area.
Okay. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke.
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming.
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington. Councilmember Stahl. Councilmember Dow.
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. 15D.
An ordinance to annex approximately 0.07 acre of real property and 0.31 acre of adjacent right-of-way located at 510 Old Augusta Road, and to provide the zoning designation of R6.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second.
This is part of our Pleasant Valley Center, and a piece of the property wasn't ever annexed, and so we want to make that whole, and so that is the request before you this evening.
So the teen center is the little carve out there?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's already city, is it not? Or are we working?
Yes, this is just the parcel, and if you can that is all city, but if you look at the parcel that is before you tonight, a portion of that parcel wasn't annexed, the very tip of that triangle.
Is that triangle?
Yes, and we just want to make all of it within the city.
Jeez.
Yeah. Years ago, we consented to partner to create the Pleasant Valley Community Center, even though it was not in the city. But we felt like the area needed that, so we stepped up and kind of led the way to put that center there back about 12 years ago, if I recall.
I got
And we also invested a couple $1 million in that neighborhood as well.
I had the pleasure of being able to tour that facility with the city manager about a year ago, and it's wonderful.
It's good. It's had great.
Amazing
Pleasant,
asset
good
for our
leader-
community.
Good community leadership. And the same people we worked with 12 years ago are still there today.
Well, Lita is fantastic. The other nice thing right in there, kudos to Clint's team for sidewalks in that area. Did we not, have we wrapped up the project around there, all that Prosperity Avenue, Potomac, all the sidewalks? It's just dug on
Got
that.
that.
But we've been doing a ton of paving in there too.
We've been putting sidewalks in Pleasant Valley for at least 15 years,
We're doing,
all over, including places just on the edge of city and the county. Clint's done a great job. Pleasant Valley, again, good leadership in the neighborhood. Whatever they wanted, the sidewalk, they got a sidewalk. So
so how does this tie to the resolution later on, Shannon, or does it?
You have to have,
Contrary to-
in order for you, we actually have to
Some
have our
lies.
consent as well. So we have to consent since it's city-owned property.
Okay.
Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke.
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming.
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington. Councilmember Stahl. Councilmember Dow.
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. 15E.
An ordinance to amend the 2021-2022 Annual Action Plan to include the provision of eligible activities associated with home investment partnership funds awarded through the American Rescue Plan and the appropriation of the funds in Community Development Fund 111.
Motion and second. Motion and second. This is a nice one. Glad we finally earned this one.
Second.
Thank you.
The ordinance before you provides city council approval for the Community Development Division to submit an amendment to the 2021-2022 Annual Action Plan in order to appropriate funds awarded through the American Rescue Plan for Home Investment Partnership Funds. The city was notified of the award of funds in the amount of $1,068,364,000. It was in April of 2021 with final guidance on allowable expenses released late last year. These funds are required to be used to help communities provide housing, shelter, and services for people experiencing homelessness, and other qualifying populations. The Community Development Division released the public engagement surveys and presented the allocation of funds to the CD Advisory Committee.
So will they be responsible? I guess I'm wondering, how is this getting out to address our problem with those experiencing homelessness?
Monique's coming.
Monique has,
Oh, Monique. No, Monique.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So this is your permission for us to submit an application to HUD for the funding. We will work on the actual project. It's actually a project that will come before you in the future. HUD has directed us to go through our continuum of care to get to the right population. So when we get to that point, we'll come back with an actual project.
And that'll be a partnership with Continuum of Care.
Yes.
clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke.
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming.
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington. Councilmember Stahl.
Aye.
Councilmember Dow.
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. Thank you. 15F,
An ordinance to appropriate $3,200,000 for the acquisition of property from the Greenville Housing Authority and design of a new connector street.
So moved.
Second.
motion second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke.
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming.
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington. Councilmember Stahl.
Aye.
Councilmember Dow.
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. Okay. New business 16A.
A resolution to accept $25,000 in donated funds from Coldwell Banker Kane via Legacy Park Friends for the addition of amenities at Legacy Park.
You've got some friends with you,
Well,
residents in Hollingsworth.
Yeah.
Kara?
May I have a motion and a second,
So
please?
moved.
Motion
Second.
Okay,
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I have our Legacy Park friends here again. They are a nonprofit organization that works in partnership with our department through volunteering, fundraising with a goal of maintaining and improving our Legacy Park. Today, I'm thrilled to recognize this group as they worked with Coldwell Banker Kane for a $25,000 donation toward a new sensory area. The sensory station will be located adjacent to the park playground and include 4 play pieces to engage the senses. So at this time, I'd like them to stand and be recognized.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This brings to date their contributions to over $81,000.
Are you
for Legacy
serious?
Park.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, before we vote, not only the terrorist point, I mean, we've seen the Legacy Park Friends a few times now, just in the past several months, so keep up the great work. But in addition to the monetary support that they're generating for Legacy Park in particular, as I was sharing with Mrs. Wallen earlier, I'm just really impressed and thankful and pleased by the way this group is beginning to serve as a model for other friends groups that are developing in support of other city parks. So an instance of that is we've recently had interest expressed in Cleveland Park, for a Cleveland Park Friends Group, and the model they set 2 or 3 years ago is now proliferating to some extent. So kudos. Thank you all for the example you're setting.
You're exactly right. It really is spreading word, and some pretty significant private donations are on their way. But y'all are the inspiration. Thank you so much for that. We don't mind telling other people, well, that's what they did at Legacy Park. Match our money. All in favor of the resolution, say aye. Aye. Opposed, ayes have it. 16B.
A resolution to approve a memorandum of understanding and automatic aid agreement between the City of Greenville for and on behalf of the Greenville Fire Department and Bowling Springs Fire Department for certain emergency incidents within the designated areas of the city and the district.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Chief?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we continue to work on automatic aid agreements with neighboring departments. This is Bowling Springs, for not familiar, is on Pelham Road at 85, then comes back up Blacks Drive, kind of towards Roper Mountain. We work a lot with them, not just on structure fires, but also for Interstate 85 and 385 corridors coming back and forth both directions. We did have one thing that we need to change, the exhibit. The original exhibit, we had made changes to it, was not just structure fires, but all instances. And that's the only thing that changed on that agreement. We caught it this morning, so.
Yeah. All right, appreciate it. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you. 16C,
A resolution consenting to the annexation of approximately 0.07 acre of real property owned by the city of Greenville at 510 Old Augusta Road.
So moved.
motion
Second.
second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, ayes have it. 16D,
A resolution to provide for certain certifications regarding an abandoned building and an abandoned building site according to the South Carolina Code annotated section 1267, 100, et cetera, located at 1200 and 1202 Lawrence Road.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
So, good evening, first of all, everyone. This piece of property is located at 1200 and 1202 Lawrence Road. It's at the corner of Lawrence and Ackley, which you might recognize as a spot for major future development. So the developers are using this property or this tax credit. It's an income tax credit. So there's no impact to the city. But they are using that as part of their funding mechanism for the development. So we are asking, we have approved that at the staff level, and the builder has also, or the developer has also provided an affidavit to the fact that it meets all the certification standards set forth by the state legislation.
And they closed on that property. They purchased from, when we
Sure.
talked about this, but this is a very high visibility project and the church has sold to the developer. The developer owns
I
it.
think that's why it took a while
Yeah.
for this to get.
You know, our goal is to have a significant affordable housing project going in here.
yeah, this is part of helping make it affordable.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Do you have anything, Mr. Manager? Do you have anything?
Just a couple things,
Okay,
Mayor.
all right.
Follow up to the work session, we're pleased to be able to move forward with the purchase and sales agreement on this building and to pursue the Bellwater opportunity. So we'll be bringing that back to you in the coming weeks, hopefully with positive news, and move down the path on that. Duke and city staff have performed a field assessment for overhead utilities, cleanup and pull consolidation along Stone Avenue from Wade Hampton to Rutherford Road. 20 crossings were identified for possible undergrounding there, so more to come on that, hopefully to clean that area up. A lot of people are wondering what's happening on North Main. The striping is being completed there as well as Twin Lakes. So be happy to see that.
Good job, Clint.
I mean, really?
We do.
Looks like John had gone in and done that.
Last year's
striping. I was
budget,
concerned.
we included funding for modernization of the River Place parking garage. That's where you have the red light, green light. So we're going to take advantage of that. That work started on March the 6th, and we anticipate about 6 weeks to complete that work. So that's positive. And our development code and official zoning map was posted on February the 28th, and the Planning Commission will have a public hearing on that on March the 30th. So that process is moving forward. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Now, council, before anybody leaves here tonight, this came in my office this afternoon about 4 o'clock, and I think everyone needs to hear about it. This is from Good Housekeeping Institute. It's a big website, AAA is part of it. 10 best spring break destinations for families. So this, and it says for last minute family vacations for spring break. You kind of know where this is heading, right? Number 1 for your family, gather the kids together. And this is for kids and families. This is not where you go to drink beer and that kind of thing, John. This is a different kind of spring break. Different kind of spring break. Number 1 is San Diego. Get the kids, pack them up, go to San Diego. Number 2 is Washington, D.C. Number 3 is Greenville, South Carolina. You know, we're Greenville, South Carolina again. That's some really nice observation, Picture Falls Park. That's number 3, but it's worth hearing the top 10, the others, right? Then we have next New York City, a little cheaper than New York. For families, yes. Then New Orleans.
New York City, yeah.
Pensacola Beach. Okay, that's different. Pensacola Beach. The top 10, blah, blah, blah. Club Med in Dominican Republic. And I'm sorry to break the news to these folks, but number 10, because we're number 3, right? Number 10 is Disney World. So being out Disney World. So how about that? So there you go. Will's talking about his family vacation.
Yeah, the city manager just told me, I'm gonna tell my daughter whose spring break is next week, that I got great news.
You stay right here.
That's not gonna work for my grandchildren.
6:07
I'm
PM.
giving you a.